Hey guys, Wildcat here. Got another desk video for you all. I figured it's been a while since we've done this, and I just recently got the AAP-01, and so I figured I'd just compare it to the other pistols I have and just give my general opinion on it. So I haven't made a video in a little while. Sorry, I'm just taking a sip of water. I haven't really made a video in too long. I haven't really made one of substance in even longer, so we're going to be comparing just the externals and general feel, because the AAP-01 is often compared to other Glock airsoft pistols because it takes Glock mags, and the lower internally is basically a Glock 18. Like Glock trigger, Glock mags, Glock 18 style hammer housing, things like that. So because it is so often compared to G-series or Glock airsoft pistols, I am going to compare it to the two Glock or G-series airsoft pistols that I have. So first up is the Armorerworks Vx711. Now, any additions onto this is just a repro light and the cow fast lock compensator and barrel combination. Outside of that, this is completely stock, and we're just comparing externals anyway, so it doesn't necessarily matter what's inside of it. Then after that is going to be my ground up. It's like kind of half TM spec, kind of half WE spec, because I have a WE hammer housing and blowback unit in there, a guns modified barrel and frame, a garter slide, I'm blanking on the brand, but a ghost sight, things like that. It's a general ground up build, generally more TM spec than WE spec. So we have the mainly AWWE, mainly other, and the AAP. And this is going to give us a general Glock feel, a P80 feel, and then we can compare that to the AAP. So first off, I think arguably one of the more comfortable ones to hold is the AW, because honestly, the frame is really well made. I will give that to Armorerworks. It is incredibly well done. It's very comfortable in my hand. The non-stippled areas are very smooth to touch, even though there is a little bit of a like a seam line here, but I genuinely cannot feel it when I'm holding it. The laser stippling, it's not rough to the point that it's uncomfortable, but you do feel it when it's there, and I'm not sure if it's necessarily helping you with the grip, but it's definitely not too aggressive to the point that it's uncomfortable to hold. That, and one of the most important things that I necessarily want to compare when it comes to various Glocks is the mag release. Now, Armorerworks has an extended mag release on their 7111s, probably their other VX7 and 9 models as well, that makes it incredibly easy just from a general holding point that I do not have to adjust my grip at all to press it enough to get it to have a smooth mag release. Now, in comparison to the AAP, I also really like the mag release on this one because, again, I don't have to adjust my grip at all to make that go. Now, on Glocks in general, like the general styled Glocks, I believe this is a Gen 3 styled lower for my ground up build, I don't have an extended or an extra thick mag release, and so I often do have to find myself slightly adjusting my grip a little bit to push it down enough to actually comfortably and consistently drop the mag. That is one thing that with this one I did not enjoy as much, that I really liked that the Armorerworks included, and it was just ease of access here. And one thing that I really like about the AAP, because if you can tell, comparing these two, hopefully you guys can see that the Armorerworks one is clearly extended. It's raised higher up than the ground up build. But then when you compare that to the AAP is not as high, but it goes further out, so it helps even more that you can just drop your thumb, and you don't need to reach over here. You can just get right here a little bit, and it goes real easy like that. that is personally a very big plus in my eyes. Just something overall, if you need to adjust your grip on the gun to release the mag, it's lacking in a bit of efficiency there in my mind. And so that is one negative that like Gen 3, 4, maybe Gen 5 Glocks. I'm not sure on Gen 5 Glocks, but like some of the more standard type Glocks that you'll see out there compared to things like the Armorerworks P80 style or the AAP lowers. Going back to the stippling, we did talk about how the laser stippling on the Armorerworks it's a little, it's not as aggressive, but it is very well done and it's still very comfortable to hold. Comparing that to, let's say, the hand stippling that I did on my ground up build, this one, it's still comfortable to hold. It's not as aggressive as other stippling jobs could be, but it is more aggressive in the fact that you are going to feel it and it will grip onto your fingers and your palm a lot more and a lot easier than this stippling is going to. This is more like an accent where this one has some bit of function to it as well. Now, when we go to the AAP, most of the stippling that you're gonna feel is in the rear, right here, where your palm hits. It is very, very aggressive, to the point that if you have sensitive hands, it might honestly be a little uncomfortable for you to hold. I don't think it's that bad, but I can see an argument where someone with more sensitive hands could be, after shooting it for a little while, or if they have a really tight grip on it, like it'll, as you can see, just that grip right there, let's just make it a little more pronounced, you can see that it's kind of spreading that pattern onto my hand. Now, a lot of people will argue that is good stippling, that's what it's supposed to be, and I agree with that. I think the stippling on this is very well done for the rear, but for the sides and the front, it's a lot more just there for looks, or maybe comfort for the front. But the only stippling on this gun that I think is actually doing anything for you is the rear. So, just to recap, the laser stippling here is mainly for aesthetics, not much for function. Here, it's about half for function, or maybe a third for function, 2/3 for aesthetics, and then here is 2/3 function, 1/3 aesthetics. Just because of like the design that I put into it. It is meant to look cool, but it does help, just not as much as very aggressive stippling styles will. Now, another thing to compare, which I think is really important when talking about the general externals of pistols, especially on Glocks, is the slide release. So let's once again start with the AW. As you can see, unloaded. All of these are unloaded, ungassed, no danger at all in accidental firings. For the Armorerworks, it's not an extended slide release. It is just a general run-of-the-mill Glock slide release, but you don't need to really adjust your grip at all. Let's just show you again. If that's my shooting grip, I don't need to adjust my grip to release the slide, which is fantastic. That is something that I always really, really want in a pistol. If I have to, again, just like with the mag releases, if you have to adjust your grip to make it work, there is a level of inefficiency there, especially when it's on the main controls. So if you're in your firing position and you cannot release the slide or release the mag, or release the slide without adjusting and getting out, like if you need to get out of your shooting grip to do that, there is a bit of inefficiency in how quickly you'll be able to manipulate your airsoft gun. Now this also goes with real firearms, but we're strictly talking about airsoft stuff here. Now for the ground up pistol, I do have an extended I'm confusing the two. I do have an extended slide release. So, similar enough, I can just quickly release the slide, which is fantastic. But if I did not have that extended slide release, if you can see from my shooter grip, I wouldn't be able, I am able to not have to move from my shooting grip to release the slide because of that extended nub right there. If I didn't have the extended one, I likely would not be able to as efficiently drop the slide without moving my shooting grip at all. Now, moving on to the AAP, let's rack you back, go into our shooting position. Once again, you do not need to adjust your general shooting grip to hit that slide release, or I guess it's more of like a bolt release in terms of the AAP. But the same theory goes. For all three of these, you do not need to adjust your shooting position, your shooting grip on the pistol to actually release the slide, the bolt, whatever the AAP would be referred to as. But something to note, for non-AWs, for the P80 placement, but for general Glocks, if it doesn't have that extended slide release, you very well might have to adjust your position a little bit to accurately hit that slide release. Now that does vary depending on the brand of Glock you have, how big your hands are, how long your thumb is, how you hold the pistol. It does vary, but as a general, from my experience, the only reason that my ground up build is on par with these two in terms of the efficiency of releasing the slide without changing your shooting position or your shooting grip is because this one I opted for the extended slide release. Now that's really the only things that I had to talk about too much, but we can also mention the triggers on each of these, because that's really all that's left to do. Because we talked about the stippling, so the comfort, the usefulness of the stippling and design of the grips on these. We've talked about the mag releases on all of them, and we've talked about the slide releases on all of them. So now I think the only thing left to talk about that necessarily matters when it comes to comparing the usefulness of the externals would be the triggers. Now, again, as we showed, all empty. I'll even release the magazine so you guys know there's absolutely no chance of anything happening here. For the AW, it is a standard stock AW WE plastic trigger. Now these aren't the most comfortable things in the world. They're not terrible, they're not bad. If you're wearing gloves, you'll never even notice it when you're shooting, but it does give off a little bit of a cheap feeling. Now, moving over to the ground up build, I do have a Guns Modify flat trigger in here. Now this one is obviously a much higher quality one. I paid outright for an aftermarket trigger, but if you're running off of a stock pistol, you're gonna have the same kind of trigger as this one. But if you're looking at one of the more higher end pistol builds like this one tends to be, you will most likely encounter a trigger similar to this Salient one. It could be various brands copying various real brand triggers, but these will typically be made of aluminum, be a little more flat in design, and just a little bit more smooth and adjustable with a set screw in the back. Now, going over to the AAP, similar to the AW, it does have that plastic stock trigger. I do think, however, that the AAP's trigger feels a little bit cheaper than the Armorerworks one. Purely subjective, but what I feel is with the safety here, the little safety lever, when I pull the trigger, there's when the indent goes in, it's a little bit sharp. It's not like rounded out in the middle, so I do feel that little small sharpness in the trigger when I pull it. Now again, this is one of those things that if you're wearing gloves when you go airsofting, you will never notice it, but for those that are not, it does feel a little cheaper than the Armorerworks one. Because the AAP-01 is frequently compared to Glocks in the airsoft world, because it does share so many similarities in its internal and external functions, I did want to make a video that was just highlighting the similarities that they have and how they compare to one another on different brackets of quality. Having the stock AW, the custom ground up build, and seeing how they fare against what the AAP offers. I did really think that this would be useful for those who are familiar with Airsoft Glocks, who want to get into the AAP, just so they can see a direct comparison with styles that they're already familiar with, so they know what to expect when they are, if they're contemplating buying this, or if they already have and they're just waiting on it and they're trying to just get a little more information before it actually gets to them. I thought this would be a really good way to do it. Now, one thing to remember is that the AAP Hammer Assembly is Glock 18, not 17, because it does have the switch here that's currently in semi, now in full auto, back to semi. Because of that, it is obviously using a Glock 18 style hammer assembly, so if you're comparing it to those of your Glocks and you are not using Glock 18s, just remember that the hammer assemblies will not be identical. That's going to wrap up the video. I hope you guys did enjoy. Leave a comment, let me know what you liked, what you didn't like, anything you think I could improve. A little sorry about the messy desk. I just didn't want to clear everything off when I didn't need all of that space cleared off, because it's only 3 pistols. They're all small airsoft guns. But that's gonna be it. So I will hopefully see you guys in the next one, and I hope that this was somewhat entertaining and informative. Peace out, guys.